Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to a lore video. Finally, yeah, I know Brian has finally decided to do a lore video. I've been planning on doing one for a while, but there's been a couple of issues with that. Which I was planning on making a lore video on Caustic the second the Caustic audio was released in the Caustic takeover, but I'm glad that myself decided to hold off on that because it seems like we got an entire comic based off of that alone. Now, I was going to wait another week because there's probably going to be even more comics about what I'm going to discuss in this video, as well as I believe that Tuesday, the upcoming Tuesday, when the final comic releases for the season in the game, that I feel like that's going to have some correlation with this comic or this upcoming this upcoming lore, although I haven't seen it yet, so I don't truly know that. Now, with that being said, this video is going to be a brief glimpse and overview of what we've seen, and I'm going to try tying in a little bit in the timeline and where they're going to go with this maybe, or like what will this will play into. Now, because that there is still possibly more information coming our way, we still have to kind of wait and see where the direction of this lore goes. But if you don't know what I'm talking about Caustic planning on gassing Solus City. And not only have we learned that Desi want to gas Solus City, but we learned that Caustic is actually dying, or most likely dying. As the references here, from Watson's perspective, it seems very likely that Caustic, that coughing that he's been doing throughout this entire game, it's not just something that he accumulated over the years from using his gas. I mean, maybe it is from his gas, but we know that it is clearly something that is taking a toll on his physical health. So, without chattering too much, I hope you guys can enjoy the ranked gameplay in the background, and I'm going to go ahead and send these screenshots here into this video, cut them up, and try to discuss as best as I can. Also, real quick before I do that, I did not draw any of these. You can find these on Apex's official Twitter, so these comics I'm going to show you are canon. They are in the game. They are canon for lore. It is an actual thing. Please go go to the tweets. They're on Twitter for Respawn or Apex Legends actual Twitter, their official Twitter. Go look at that. These artists are very, very, very talented. Pybun being one of them. I hope I didn't pronounce the name wrong, because Pybun's very, very good. One of the artists, and show them some love. Show Apex some love for giving us the extra lore that they technically don't have to give us outside of the season, outside of Apex, but here they are doing it anyways. So thank you guys, and let's get right into this video.
Bro, the Spitfire's OP. Horizon's low. Other team shooting me. I gotta back off and heal.
So I guess the best way to start off this video is by talking about the old news. I guess technically all this is kind of old, but it's also relevant. So the old news being the Caustic takeover. Now we have 3 phone calls that Caustic has, or something off of his recorded tablets, that suggests that he was going to, well, use these intoxicated waters, which I'm not going to actually mention because that led up to the takeover and what was revealed in the takeover, which we already have, so there's no point in introducing those phone calls. Although those phone calls suggested that Caustic wanted to test the oily, toxic water that resulted from the ship, the IMC ship that that Maggie crashed, that it created toxic water, and he wanted to use these toxins and study them to create a more potent gas. And he's talked about larger sample sizes, obviously saying that simply that the games may not be enough for him. And then we get the Caustic takeover. And if you play Watson or Caustic, and you go to the Watson or Caustic area, there's a small area on the backside of the takeover towards the edge of the map. There's these little cliffs you can climb up of, which most people know, but if you don't, you can go there and you can find this voice line in this secret room where only Watson and Caustic can enter. And there's a reason why it's only one of these two, and that's because of these comic pages that come up. But first of all, let me play the audio clip that they give us in this takeover that spurred these events that transpired, basically after Season 8, as far as I'm aware.
Just a few modifications, and this plentitude of gas has the potential to expand by field experiments well beyond this trite game. A larger sample size, such as Solus City, would yield more reliable, compelling results. The only snag is Maldera, but let him find me. Now that Miss Paquette knows the truth, This charade has lost its luster.
While he was thirsting.
Okay, so as we can see, this is the Caustic voice line takeover, which most of you have probably already heard and have assumed that, well, okay, we've heard this, Brian. Now, what does this mean? There's two important things to take from this that leads into the reasoning in the comics. One, there's now that Miss Paquette is no longer interested. This charade has lost its luster. Now that he is no longer in good terms with Miss Paquette due to his own issues and what he's done, the interactions with Crypto and him still refusing to admit that what he did was in the wrong and lying about it, causing her to completely lose her distrust, completely cause distrust between her and Caustic, destroying their relationship and their bond as a father-ish kind of figure. And that leads to, well, the events that transpire in the comics. The other thing to notice is that the only snag is Maldera. Now, we know that Maldera's been looking for Caustic, which means that Caustic's been off the grid, and we also know that Caustic's able to do his experiments thanks to the Syndicate having his back. Now, what will this mean? Does this mean the Syndicate cannot protect him from Maldera? Will Maldera come to the games? Will Maldera be a story character? Will Maldera never come to the games? Will Maldera actually be a playable legend? I don't know. I'm not going to theorize about that too much because that's not the center of this video. Now we get into what we get into is a couple of things. We have Apex Overtime, which I want to analyze, but I want to analyze that after I start to analyze these comic pages. And I'm going to go ahead and start briefly going over the comic pages and then edit in the overlays, and hopefully I'm doing this correctly. I have a PS5 now, thankfully, but I'm not exactly sure how it works. Once again, the first comic page, these are all on the official Apex Twitter. The quality resolution might be a little lower. There's for two reasons, because, well, it was annoying to export onto my PlayStation, and two, if you want to see full HD quality, then go to Twitter and look at the actual artist post. So we can see that this is a reference, the first slide here. This has the first slide referring to the original comic page from the season where Caustic offered to cut off Fuse's arm. Allow me to assist. I am told I have excellent bedside manner. Soon, none of them will matter. That's when he trots out shortly after being declined to that. We didn't know that Watson was there when that happened. The doctor, doing no harm, as ever, thought Watson, right? Then we jump into this here, what looks like the dropship. You can see three lights, one shining on Mirage, one shining on Watson, and we see one with someone missing. Now, I have no idea if this is supposed to be the dropship, if this is correlating to the games, but I'm assuming it is, especially considering with the stuff that they have going on between Bangalore Wraith and the Crypto Mirage during that whole thing that transpired, which I will have a video on at some point. So you can see Mirage looking at Watson and talking to her, which we have not seen, and hopefully this involves more Mirage and Watson interactions. This would be cool. More, stuff in between characters to add to the lore. We see Mirage say, "Big Yellow's a no-show. When I find that ruthless, psychotic madman, I'm gonna ask you to never repeat that to him." Right? So classic Mirage. Watson says, "Don't worry, Dr. Caustic's no longer my concern." Now she says this, but on the inside, she says, "Tout va bien, alors." The doctor is fine, Natalie. I think I took 3 years of French and I don't remember a lick of it, but I'm assuming that means he's okay, or all is good. All is good, or all will be good. All will be okay. Mumbling ominous threats, vanishing for days, and that's Caustic Classique. Now, keep in mind, in the Mirage, in the comics, we notice that Mirage is talking about how to solve with Mad Maggie. And he says, well, we can always offer a hit. I know Caustic wouldn't oppose. And basically get, someone to assassinate it, which I'm assuming would probably be the murder bot, as known as Revenant. But we see here that contributes to this comic. It's a hint towards this comic when, Watson adds onto the fact that the doctor has vanished, right? So this is before the Caustic takeover. And then she adds on, if something was wrong, do you care? After what he did? No. She's thinking to herself. Not even a little bit. So you see that she's got this personal issue. She's got this personal conflict, right? This internal conflict. So it carries over into the next, when we go and we see the new comic, it's the second comic page, and this is where we're revealed, where Caustic reveals his true intentions and what he plans on doing with Solace City. And that is that a large sample size such as Solace City will yield reliable, compelling results. This is a direct reference to the voice line that we unlock by using Watson or Caustic to go into the town takeover and see the secret clip on the computer. This is why you have to be Caustic or Watson, because these are the only two characters that know about this voice line. They're the only two that's actually heard it. You know, Caustic being the one that spoke it and recorded on the tablet, which then, you know, Watson saw and heard as well. So that's why those two are the only two that can do it. Then we have Caustic in the comic, grunting in pain. I'm not going to attempt to reagonize those. I mean, you guys are seeing the comic, so you can imagine it yourself. And Watson has a flashback to when her father did the exact same thing, or very similar. And these are grunts of pain. And she says, Papa. And then Papa responds with, I'm just a little out of breath, my dearest Natalie. Do not worry about this doddering old fool. Now, this is something to pay huge attention to, because you can see that Watson immediately links what happened to her father to what happens with Caustic. So she's immediately already knowing that something's wrong with Caustic's health. Whether it be he's dying or something similar, she's immediately comparing it to her father, which has died. So this is huge. In the next page, we have Watson thinking doctor, and this is the town takeover. Mon Dieu, so much toxic waste, Dr. Caustic said he'd disposed of it. He did not. Of course he wouldn't. He wanted to contribute to his scientific research. This is when she's discovering the takeover. Why dispose of what I can, harness the effects of Sola City will be most illuminating. Watson replies with Sola City, no, there... And then Caustic interrupts, a petri dish and nothing more. I'm sorry, Miss Paquette. Flawed thinking led you here. It's imperative that you leave. So he's indicating he wants her to leave because he's about to do the thing, you know, with the caustic gas. Watson interrupts 1,000 of lives in Solar City, families, fathers, and their daughters. Please consider. And Caustic responds with, consider the data. Consider all I could learn and how quickly I could learn it. Right? So we get this ominous Caustic getting obsessed with his data. Now I gotta kind of cut this real quick because my stupid ass has got to add more film. So we can see that this is a front, which I believe is a front, a Caustic trying to deal with his emotions. We see Caustic is talking about data and how obsessed he is with his scientific data, while throughout the entire game, they've made it pretty obvious how Caustic is about data and, you know, his lack of care for human lives, citing the fact that he's a sociopath. Not only does he not understand what he's doing and how much it's affecting human lives, but he prioritizes science over it. So he sees it as a logical effort. He thinks it's ethical, right? So we go into the next comic page, which is the last one for the first week that we got these extra ones on Twitter. And Caustic said, your father was a man of science. Surely you've inherited his faculty for logic. Watson then replies, there's nothing logical about killing innocents. Stop. There's still time to save, interrupted. Oh, it's too late to save the city, Mrs. Paquette. It's too late to save any of us. And with that, the gas goes off. She says, non, mon ami. It's never too late. Okay, so this is huge because Caustic says it's too late to save any of us. Now, why is Caustic saying this? Why is it everybody? Why is it too late to save everybody? Any of us? Caustic clearly knows more than he's letting on. Not only that, but he's also referring to himself. Once again, this is referring to he can't save himself because he's dying. Because when Watson referred to her father doing this very same motions and pain and coughing, she immediately connected it to her father when it happened to Caustic there. And now we see Caustic's attitude has changed, especially after he lost Watson. He no longer has her. You know, he lost her trust and he lost her. And because of that, this throws him further off the edge to complete his assignments, you know, his tasks, his scientific research, and his development. Along with considering the fact that, well, if he's dying, that would be another reason why he wants to contribute and is taking this to a much larger scale, is to get more data faster, right? Because he's dying. He wants to complete his work. Along with the fact, and this is a multiple things. It could be this, and it could also be his relationship with Mrs. Paquette. Because he doesn't understand his emotions and he's not good at controlling them, being a scientist and having a lack of, you know, social skills, it could be that maybe it's simply that because of what's happening between him and Mrs. Paquette, that this is why he's doing it. And we go into the next week's comics, where we can see the gas is going off, and this is the comics by Piebun, and we can see the gas is clearly starting to, you know, attack, well, not really attack, but fill the air. And we see Watson uncovers the plans where it shows Caustic's X's and circles and whatnots on Solus City. We see a map that says Solus City. Now, the question is what are the triangles or the circles, and what do the X's mean? Is this where the bombs have been planted? Is this where he plans on attacking? Where he plans on avoiding? We don't know yet. We don't even know if he's going to attack after this. So Watson says, "Damn it," which, first of all, we don't really see her cuss much, and she covers her mouth. She replies to tell me, cough, so like she's actually coughing, how to turn off the gas. And then Caustic says, I would expedite your retreat, Miss Paquette.
I think that's game.
Not when so many lives depend on it, depend on me stopping you. And he also says, they suffer inconsequentially lives of meaningless noise. In death, gift them purpose. So once again, he's saying that their deaths are full of meaning, as opposed to their lives are already meaningless. Watson screams, oh nom de deux, that isn't about humanity's suffering. It's about yours. It's about ours. You're suffering because you've pushed me away, because you are afraid at the end comes, you'll be alone. Jamais, I think she means please leave me be, is what Caustic says, while Watson continues on. But you're not alone. Your pain, our pain, we can't take it out on others, Doctor. And honestly, you think you're the only one suffering? Caustic says Natalie turned back. Watson coughs more rapidly as the gas fills the air, and she faints to the ground, and we can see that Caustic reacts, and he stops his experiment. He lets go of the gas. He presses a button and stops the experiment. He opens the door, and he's immediately filled with regret with the choices he's made. No, not you. I never meant this for you. Watson, who's on the ground, severely injured, I would assume, says, Doctor, as she charges her hands, I think it's time you came to your senses, and she shocks him. In this, you don't get a choice. I look forward to earning my trust again. And then it fast forwards to what I believe is going to be a future loading screen. We see 3 gloves, and we see a lot of booze being clicked, which if you look carefully, you can see what looks like Fuse's arm, a blue fabric glove, and what looks like gray and red gloves, which is most likely Bloodhound. So you see Fuse's arm, Bloodhound, and the blue glove, which is, it could be technically Watson, I think. I don't remember what color her gloves are, but I don't think it is. I think it's Lifeline because, well, because Caustic and Watson's got their own thing going on, and then Fuse, Lifeline, and Bloodhound's had their own thing going on. So you hear clink, cheers, ha ha ha, drinking, celebrating, and you got Watson and Caustic by what seems like a fire. And it says, if the Syndicate finds out what nearly happened to Solus City, well, you've heard what they've planned for Maggie. Some very creative punishments. You think they wouldn't do the same to you, Caustic. I won't say anything, of course, because from now on, Doctor, you play by my rules. You will be a better man, whether you want it or not. Caustic then says, callous, manipulative, logical. Miss Paquette, it almost makes me proud. So, learning from him. Watson then replies with, now we have an understanding. Is there anything you want to tell me? I am not talking about Solus City. You're coughing. Your desperate ambition, you owe me the truth. This is because Caustic says, apologies are for children. I may have miscalculated. Watson knows what's going on here, right? She knows, she's aware of his health issues. Caustic then says, no, you shouldn't waste your time worrying about this old fool, which is something that her father said. Her father she has a flashback where she says to her father, but I do, Papa, I do. And she can see where she zones out and she's in her own memory. And she's seeing the great loss of her father. She's seeing that the same thing is happening, and she can't do anything to stop it. She's seeing this very same event fold right in front of her very eyes. And that is the end of the comics that we've gotten so far. So, which also makes me reason to believe, we can see that Caustic most likely won't follow through with the gas plan. Because, well, because of what's happening between him and Caustic, between Caustic and Watson, in order for him to rebuild his relationship with Watson, he has to not do the Solus thing. Plus, I'm pretty sure the plans fell through. So, yeah, not likely happening from Caustic. Now, people are wondering, but Brian, in the Overtime comic, they talk about mad scientist in a murder robot. Well, guys, it's very possible that this is what I believe. I believe that almost said Overwatch, Jesus, Apex Overtime is going to be about mad scientists. Yeah, it's going to involve Crypto and Mirage and Revenant, as we see in the screen there. But I don't think it's going to be Caustic. It says mad scientist, multiple, right? I think that it's got something to do with the Ares division, or maybe even IMC or something along the lines of that. I'm not sure what, and I'm not going to estimate too much because it's only a 32 comic page. So most likely it's not going to be some massive divulgement. It's just going to be some side stuff that sets up some more stories for the future of the Apex games. Keep in mind, we haven't really had a whole lot going with Mirage in the last 2 seasons. I mean, we've had some small stuff, but he's never really been truly involved. Up until this point, where we're going to see him getting involved in the game's lore again, like he did in Season 6. But with that being said, there's a lot to interpret here. So, what do we take away from these comics? Well, we can take away that most likely Caustic is dying, and Watson has seen this firsthand, and it's the same thing with her father that's happening with Caustic. So, how will this change things with her and Caustic? Well, she's going to be more accepting of him, while he's also going to try catering himself more to her, because now he has to adjust in order to be able for Miss Paquette to accept him, right? Because he doesn't want to die alone. He doesn't want to be alone when he dies. He needs someone. Even though he's a scientist that has a lack of care for humanity, he still wants Watson, right? So he's going to adjust. Now, we obviously know that he's not going to die in the game because he's an actual character with cosmetics, but we'll see where the lore goes, and we'll see how this ties in with the Maldera conscious that's going on, and will Maldera come? Because is he going to gas Solus? We don't know. That's all I gotta say. There's not too much more to interpret because it's all loose cannon and there might be more. I'll keep you guys updated. I'll do a Bangalore Wraith thing soon, and I love you all. Have an amazing fucking day. Okay, so I may have lied just briefly because I went over, edited, did some reviewing, and I forgot to mention that I have another analysis that I feel like the scientists, yes, I know that Ares Division is IMC, but I meant more specifically the Atlas Corporation is tied in with Ares and not specifically Ares. If I mean the actual Ares Division, I mean the IMC because that's their research division, I know. But what I'm getting at is it's probably either going to be along the lines of the IMC or the Syndicate. Now, it gets interesting, and the reason why I say the Syndicate is because in the Overwatch... Jesus, I really need to stop trying to call it Overwatch. In the Apex Overtime, there's Crypto in the cover, right? Well, because of that, I feel like there's this whole other thing going on with the Murder Robot, Revenant, and Crypto. The thing is, I can't assume because there's nothing to go off of, right? But I can kind of assume that the scientist could technically be the Syndicate scientists that are holding Mila, or Crypto's sister. Maybe that's why Crypto's got some incriminating evidence on the laptop or suitcase or whatever he has. It looks like his laptop. And maybe the Syndicate hired Revenant to go kill him. Or, confiscate, maybe not kill Crypto, but confiscate the, the briefcase or laptop, whatever it is. So that's an assumption I have. I'm not sure. Like I said, I don't want to assume too much because there's not a lot of information to go off of, and there's potentially more coming because we still have next comic page coming out, and we still possibly have a third Twitter comic page. I don't know if we will get a third one, but it's very possible we will. It's likely, unless they tie this story into the final comic page there that we will be seeing next Tuesday, because it's the 13th for me, 14th for me. So we'll have to see, ladies and gents. Other than that, I don't really have much else to say other than hopefully we can see some more changes in between Caustic and Watson, and eventually Caustic and Crypto, because they're gonna eventually have to like each other in order to, be in Miss Paquette's best interest. It's going to be interesting seeing the Bangalore War. The one thing I've noticed is with the Bangalore thing, I'm not going to spill too much because that's a video in its own entirety. But we're seeing a lot of people. We're seeing a lot of connections from Mirage here. In the overtime, we're seeing that Mirage is with Crypto. In the past, we've seen him with Crypto. In the Bangalore Wraith interactions, we see that Mirage was with Bangalore and Wraith and Crypto. And in the comics, we were seeing Mirage with, well, Horizon and Fuse and Watson. So we're seeing that once again, much like in Pathfinder's Quest, that this is proving that Mirage is a heart, and he's surrounded by all the characters. I wonder what they're going to do with this. I really do. So this is the true end of the video. Thank you guys, and take care.